Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
From Dallas, this is Devin with the GSMC Social Media Podcast. I'm sorry I'm reaching you guys a little late. Our household actually has its first case of the flu, so we've been dealing with that. There are 3 strains this year, A, B, and C, and I'm pretty proud of my body, and I'm proud of my immune system because usually I am the sick one. I come down with allergies and colds and stomach bugs 2 or 3 or 4 times a year. And it is actually my lovely partner who has come down with the flu. So I've been taking over the cleaning and doing errands and trying to make sure that he's okay, bleaching everything, which I don't mind because I love my partner so very much. But things are a little bit hectic. We don't even have kids yet. We have 2 fur babies. I can only imagine how crazy it's going to be whenever, we have kids and there's 2 or 3 people in the household with the flu. But I'm thanking all of my lucky stars that it's not coronavirus. I'm very glad for that because I would have no idea how to handle that. So I've been in low spirits, as I'm sure many people all around the world have been, for obvious reasons. Sunday and Monday were very hard, and that's going to be a big part of today's podcast. We will be talking about Kobe Bryant, who passed away Sunday in a helicopter crash. We'll also check in on social media, see what's trending, and we'll talk a little bit about the Grammys. So get somewhere cozy, or if you're a multitasker like me, turn up the radio, turn up whatever you're listening on, and buckle up, because we got a lot to cover today. As you know, on Sunday, January 26th, around 10 a.m., MPV basketball icon Kobe Bryant passed away in a helicopter crash shortly just before reaching Calabasas, California. He was with his 13-year-old daughter, Gianna, who had hopes to follow in his footsteps and attend UConn, and was being looked at for women's basketball, the WNBA. So along with them, there were 7 other people, so 9 people total in the crash, and everybody died. Not much is known about what happened. All we really know is we know the pilot's identity now, not that it matters. Very well-trained man. He did nothing wrong in this crash that we know of, and it's his name, me sharing his identity, it does not matter who this man is. He also lost his life. Everybody perished on the helicopter. And I'm not to say that his name doesn't matter. I'm saying it's not his fault what happened. So there's no point in saying, this is the pilot's name. If you want to, know his name, you can look it up. But along with the Bryants, there were also teammates on the helicopter. Gianna's teammate and her parent, John Altobelli, a champion baseball coach at Orange Coast College, was killed with his wife, Carrie, and his daughter, Alyssa, and I believe he and the Bryants knew each other. And again, investigators don't exactly know the cause of the crash. But the pilot's record has been investigated. He's a very accomplished pilot, and the only thing we really know, besides the weather conditions, was that pre-crash, the pilot was trying to avoid a cloud layer. So huge, huge tragedy and shock all across, the nation. Kobe Bryant was huge, was a basketball legend. You knew who Kobe was, along the lines of Oprah, Cher, Beyonce. He didn't need a last name for people to know who you were talking about when you mentioned the name Kobe. And all around the world, I think everybody kind of just stopped. I was actually recording a Sunday cast whenever I found out, and I walked out of my room, and I said to Tyler, Kobe Bryant passed with his daughter. And it was a huge shock at first. I remember seeing a lot of people saying, like, this isn't true, this is fake news, but sure enough, the reports just started flooding in, and I think it was actually on social media that Vanessa Bryant and her remaining daughters found out what had happened to Kobe and Gianna. So immediately it was just, even though I'm not a sports fan, it was so shocking, and I couldn't begin to really understand why it was affecting me so much, besides the fact that Kobe was, a human, and to have lost your life and your daughter so tragically, it was very hard to process. I'm going to focus solely on the crash for now, and then the fallout later. So, reflecting on Kobe and Gianna's last moments, it took a couple of hours, and on into the next day, to really start feeling and thinking, and all of the reflections that came out, thinking about what Kobe and his daughter, did they know the plane was going down, or was it sudden? And I had this conversation with Tyler. He did some reading, and he thinks, they didn't even know. So they had no time to sit and understand that their precious lives were about to just end. But me, on the other hand, I thought, okay, if I was sitting in a plane with my daughter and I had to tell her that I loved her, but that, we're probably not going to make it through this, I thought about that and the last moments that they had together, and just him holding his daughter and knowing that no matter what he does, he could not save her from that moment. It broke my heart, and it kind of, brought tears to my eyes, because it shows life doesn't discriminate. You can be an NBA legend. You can be the daughter of, one of the most iconic basketball players in the world, but life does not discriminate against who it takes and who lives, tragedy out of left field can happen. The Bryants had used the helicopter to get to practices and fly Kobe to practices, back to and from practices quickly, so that he could, go to practice in the morning and pick up his kids after school. And he sat down and said this in an interview, that that's why he used the helicopters, because he didn't want to miss out on parenting. And the fact that this is just another day, flying down for a basketball game, taking the private helicopter, this was just another day, and things went so wrong so fast, and it was just, a freak accident. And I think that's what is so heart-wrenching about this, is that everything could be over in a second. And for a couple of days, the world was just a very somber place, and I think we all realized how quickly it could all be over. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, the Kobe controversy was not all, valoration. Just after the crash, someone from the Washington Post, Felicia Sonmay, tweeted about the Kobe Bryant assault case of 2003, and there was a mass uproar on social media. And I'm not going to lie, this was a whole new dimension to the story. And the whole last week, many people, myself included, I've just been on this roller coaster of mixed emotions about the death. So when we come back, we're going to talk about why it is okay to hold space for two different victims at the same time. And I'm not going to go into too much detail. I'm not going to drag his name through the mud. But we will briefly touch on the trial in 2003, and we'll discuss, what took place shortly after the crash was reported. So stay right here with the GSMC Social Media News Podcast. We'll be right back.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back to the GSMC Social Media News Podcast. Alright, when we left off, we talked a little bit about Kobe Bryant, what happened in the crash, and just incredible shock. A very eye-opening experience for a lot of the world, and it took a little bit to process. And now we're going to shift gears a little bit. Keeping on Kobe Bryant, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the harder things that came out with this case and the death of Kobe Bryant. Shortly after the helicopter was reported to have crashed, Felicia Sonmay, I apologize if I'm pronouncing that wrong, Sonmay or Sonmez of the Washington Post tweeted just after the crash about the assault case in 2003. To be clear, this was not an article that she was writing. She just tweeted this article. It had already been written, but she had tweeted about it, and it was a very hard read. In the article, I will not go into details, but I will briefly go over what it is about and the assault case allegations. For those of you who don't know, a 19-year-old female hotel worker claims that Bryant assaulted her the night before he was scheduled to have knee surgery. The article is very violent, very graphic in the things that she described Bryant doing to her, and it was very hard to stomach. For those of you who would like to read this story, you can look up the article from the Daily Beast, and it is a very straightforward article, and Felicia Sonmay tweeted about it. A simple search, you can find it, but for victims of sexual assault or any kind of sexual abuse, it is a very triggering article, so be forewarned. I was extremely torn on this in the beginning because, in all honesty, the Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday were a roller coaster of emotions. There was the shock whenever the world found out that Kobe Bryant had passed along with his young daughter. There was the heartbreak. And then the article came out, and for some victims, the people who have dealt with sexual assault, it's almost a re-traumatizing experience. Whether you would like to say it was an allegation, whether you would like to say it happened, we don't know. we only have, he said, she said. The outcome of the case was that Kobe Bryant did plead guilty to an affair, but he said, his statement was, I understand now that the victim did not think that I had consent. So, without giving too much of my opinion, it's kind of like he's saying, I'm sorry that you think I did this. Or, instead of saying, I'm sorry this happened, he said, I'm sorry you think this happened. Regardless, reading the article was hard, and my thoughts, I went, whoa. I had no idea about all of this. I was pretty angry for a little bit, because on one hand, I can understand, being that young girl, had all of this been true, seeing your assaulter, seeing the person that assaulted you being famed in the media and being valorized for everything they did wrong, even after they put you through so much pain, is traumatizing. It's re-traumatizing. Oftentimes, when somebody in a prominent position, such as Kobe Bryant, somebody in high power, if they die, if they have high status and people are publicly mourning them, it can be hard for people who have been victimized by that person. And so it took me a little bit to understand, because I was so confused. We're never going to know the truth. We know what was said, but regardless of what is said, we weren't there. We don't know what happened. And it took me a while to come around to that fact. Being a victim of assault, it was a very hard read, and it was very hard to process my feelings about feeling sad and empathizing for the family, yet also not condoning the things that took place in the article, whether they were true or whether they were false. Which brings me to my next thought. People are multidimensional, and right away, it took me a little bit to understand, we do not have to praise somebody and ignore the bad things we do. But at the same time, we do not have to focus 100% on the bad things that someone does without remembering and honoring their lives. And this was a pivotal moment for me, learning that, things are not black and white. If there is one thing that I am grateful for in this situation, it is that I have struggled with polarizing men. I'm going to be very candid with this. I've struggled with polarizing men, especially men who have, been involved in rape allegations, domestic abuse allegations, assault charges. Learning to trust again is an incredibly hard process. But out of this case, out of Kobe's death, it has shown me, whether or not we know that this happened, does not mean that because we are empathizing with the family, and because we are remarking on what a legend he was on and off the court in his charity work as a father, does not mean that we condone his assault allegations, or what might have happened in that, in the hotel room. It does not mean it's okay, but it is not okay to drag someone through the mud on the day of their death. And that is something that I learned. How two emotions and two feelings can coexist at the same time. How you can hold space for two sets of victims and praise somebody for the good that they have done, yet not condone the bad. I am with so much sorrow for the Bryants. I am also giving all of the thought and the good vibes to the victims of sexual assault in the world. The evidence in the case was strong, and ultimately Kobe issued a statement, a public apology, at the request of the victim, and the victim decided not to give a testimony, not to testify. That is how it ended. Although Kobe Bryant was involved in this case in 2003, he certainly proved that he was the ultimate girl dad. And, people, it's even hard for me to say these words, that people do make mistakes. But Kobe was an amazing father. He did amazing things for women's basketball. He raised his daughter with the same kind of work ethic that he had possessed himself. And he was a family man. He made his family a priority. All that we can say is, Kobe, rest in peace. In those last moments, I hope he found, peace from some things that maybe he wishes he could have changed. And I hope that his daughter and he got to share the last moments of their lives together. I have to agree with so many other people. It just doesn't seem right to move on so freely, to go on and, up on the next segment, we'll talk about the Grammys. It doesn't quite seem right, but rest in peace, Kobe. You will be remembered. From somebody who does not even watch a single sport on TV, your death had an impact on me and so many other people. Coming up, we're going to talk about the Grammys. We're going to shift gears and try and get a little bit upbeat. There were tons of moments at the Grammys this year that were, just heart-stopping. Nick Jonas and his little spinach debacle, Billy Porter's hat, Ariana's dress. Later we'll talk about DeAndre, the Bellevue teen, who is being forced to cut his dreadlocks in order to walk the stage. In the light of all of this, what right do you have to tell a child to cut their hair, to get rid of what makes them them, to totally cut all cultural significance out of it and say, you know what, according to me, your hair's too long? Absolutely insane. We'll talk about that when we come back, and how Ellen, this young man, DeAndre, he went on Ellen, and Ellen said, she looked directly at the camera and she said, do the right thing. Do the right thing. This kid's school system, school district, whatever, has a 3% population of Black Americans. Now, if you're going to tell this young man to do something with his hair, you might need to have hair first, because I can guarantee you the whole school board who decided, that DeAndre needs to cut his hair are all old white men with no hair. So, suck on that. We'll be back with the GSMC Social Media News Podcast. Stay right with us.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching.
Hey!
The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
promise you, while reading this story, and hearing about this story, I got flashbacks from high school. So, DeAndre Hopkins is a black teen who is in his senior year of high school in Houston, Mont Bellevue. That is the name of the school district or the area. He's a senior, and it's in Texas, Houston, Texas. Great rep in Texas. Basically, the school is refusing to let him walk across the stage to graduate unless he cuts his hair. Right away, I got, flashbacks from the school telling girls they couldn't wear, if your tank top straps were not 3 finger widths apart, you needed to go home and change. You were to be called into the principal's office, and you could not return to class until you chose to somebody brought you some clothes. Your parents, who probably worked their butts off to get you where you were in the school district that you were in. I know my parents did. This happened to me several times. We were not, none of my parents were stay-at-home parents by any means. And this happened several times. My parents had to take time off of their jobs to come bring me some clothes. 90 degrees outside, 100 degrees outside, it does not matter. If the school district deemed that you were a distraction to people, you could not go back to class until you changed your clothes. And yes, this was happening to girls, because apparently if you showed your shoulders or your knees, you are going to distract your classmates, aka the boys. This was a thing. And I almost cannot imagine this, because now that we're in this Me Too movement, I cannot imagine someone telling me that me showing my shoulders is distracting to my male classmates. That infuriates me, just thinking back on my high school experience. But to tell a black teen that his hair is going to prohibit him from graduating? A little background on the situation. DeAndre Hopkins has Trinidadian culture. His dad is from Trinidad. Sorry if Trinidadian is not, a verb or, an actual, if I'm not using it correctly conjugated. His dad is from Trinidad, and to show, it's a thing in their culture to wear long dreads, long, beautiful dreads. That's just what the men do. And to tell a teen that he has to cut his hair to walk, when there are so many other girls with long hair, walking across the stage, what's the point? What are you trying to do besides exert control over people that you don't need to exert control over? It is mind-boggling. And for what? Are dreads distracting? They're not offensive. It's hair. The deal was, as long as he kept his dreads up and out of, off of his shoulders, the boys' hair had to be shoulder length or higher, and his dreads are long, so as long as he tied them up and his mom tied them up, it'd be fine. But if they fell down or he took them out, God forbid to scratch his head, he was out of dress code. And to me, who deems what is appropriate and what is not appropriate for children who do not belong to any of these administrators? Who deems what hair length is appropriate for a boy? Because it seems to me that these people are stuck in 1950 and have been for a while. Growing up in Dallas, I'm a very opinionated young woman, and it was different. I always knew, I grew up in Dallas, he grew up in Houston. I always knew when I talked to my friends who were in different states, they told me, in California, we don't have a dress code. In Chicago, New York, we don't have a dress code. And to me, I'm like, why? Why does it matter so much for us? Well, we're in the Bible Belt. That is, the South. And old white men seem to think that it is perfectly acceptable to dictate to every child male or female, every color of skin, what is acceptable and not acceptable to have on your body. Absolutely freaking ridiculous. So Ellen, the talk show host, decided to take things into her own hands, and she invited DeAndre to the show, onto Ellen, where she asks him, tell me what's going on, because I don't understand. And he said, to her, I can't walk unless I cut my hair. And she said, well, that seems a little silly. And he said, you're telling me. And so she motions out, and out walks Alicia Keys holding a $20,000 check for a scholarship for DeAndre. Now, Ellen cannot force these school officials to change their change the rules, but she told them, on the show, do the right thing. This kid has not been in trouble a day in his life. He gets great grades. He is respectable. He is a nice, polite, and smart young man. And you're what? It seems like it's light profiling. Honestly, if you're not going to have a girl cut her hair, leave his dreads alone. Mind your own dang business, honey. Get those stoners to stop smoking in the bathroom, and then you can go chase around other kids who aren't doing a dang thing wrong. As of now, DeAndre is still in in-school suspension, and cannot come back to school unless he cuts his dreadlocks. And he can either choose to stay in in-school suspension, or he can choose to go to a juvenile system, unless he cuts his hair. Send those nasty white people a message saying, get your fingers out of the pie of young minds. Stop interfering with our education, and let us learn. Get off of our backs. Are you bored? All right, let me calm down, because I end up wanting to fight every white man in the world at least once a week. When we come back, we're going to talk about the Grammy moments that will never be lived down. Nick Jonas, honey. At least we know you eat your greens. We'll talk a little bit about world news, so your coronavirus outbreak news, the earthquakes that have been happening everywhere, and finally we'll talk about how to stay mentally healthy when social media is dark. Your fingers are tired, you're scrolling too much, and you feel sluggish. We're going to talk about, how to stay positive when your social media is flooded with negativity. You don't have to, throw the phone and run it over with your car, but there are ways to be healthier with social media. So stay right here with us. We'll be right back with the GSMC Social Media News Podcast.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now. Don't bother. What's hot on Netflix and everything in between. That's GSMCpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit GSMCpodcast.com for more info.
Gone on that day, everything that went on, on social media, Kobe Bryant, just, the year we've had thus far. January's almost over, and it's been pretty rough. It had to have been hard to go up on that stage, knowing the world is watching you, showcase your talents and your songs, and making a spectacle out of, this is what I do, I'm a singer. And there were tons of great acts, don't get me wrong, but it had to have been so hard to go up there and say, for this moment, look at me, in light of everything that has been going on. Because in my mind, it seemed pointless for the Grammys to be happening. Everything seems so pointless Sunday and Monday. I didn't even want to watch The Bachelor. And I'm always down for The Bachelor. Now that it's Wednesday, almost Thursday, the news isn't so fresh anymore. But I'm sure now details are going to come flooding in about everything that we missed or that we don't know about. But it had to have been hard for the stars to take that kind of spotlight away and be almost selfish in a sort. But Nick Jonas did it in a good way. He went up and the Jonas Brothers sang and did their Grammy performance. And, Twitter was abuzz with screen caps of Nick Jonas and the little friend he brought on stage in between his teeth. So apparently, Nick Jonas had a little spinach in there. And if it was me, I'd laugh it off. I was watching Bachelor fails last night. I'm telling you, I'm Bachelor obsessed. It makes me happy. It's smut, but it makes me happy. And there was one girl who walked forward whenever she thought that the Bachelor called her name, and she tried to catch herself and ended up slipping and falling on a rug. I think, the serious Bachelor fans, you'll know which episode I'm talking about, but like a physical fail, a physical comedy is so much worse than anything going wrong, like with an outfit or like a tooth or like makeup or something. I'd just smile and wave, there's nothing you can do in that moment. And he responded, gracefully. He said, at least I eat my greens. Yes, we do know. That hat, Billy Porter's hat, completely stole the show. It is becoming meme-worthy. So, Billy Porter dressed head to toe in this turquoise ensemble, and he had it looked like it was a hat, but it looked like there was a lampshade around it, and it would, open and close and open, and the little dangly things would, frame his face, almost as if to, block out the haters, which I thought was really cool. And, it's been being used so much. Memes are just rapid wildfire. And that one's a pretty hot pop culture reference right now. And Ariana's dress. Now, this is no Met Gala, but people still dress up for this. The Grammys, the Oscars, the Emmys, people are always in their best dress, in their best garb. And Ariana Grande was no different. She came in on a silver cloud, and some fans love it, some fans hate it. Flans. But it was very Ariana, very, sweet, puffy, princessy, but also sexy. Holy tool! It was gray, and it was just layers and layers of tulle. It swallowed that girl up. But she did her classic, it's that princessy thing where she does big, poofy, nice, luxurious fabrics, but always makes it a little bit cute and trendy. And she did, it's sleeveless, and she added some elbow-length gloves. Which, you do you. You do you. Holy tool! I think somewhere I read that thing was 20 feet in diameter. It was just ruffles and tulle and ruffles and tulle and ruffles and tulle and lots of layers and opera gloves and her high ponytail. Do your thing. Alright, when we get back, I'm going to give you a quick lowdown on what's going on with the coronavirus and some world news. And then we're going to talk and finish up with how to stay healthy on social media. So stay right here with us. We're more than halfway through. If you're getting your chores done, good for you. If you're just sitting, listening on the way to work, get your coin. If you are listening before bed, wake up! We'll be right back.
Always on the go, but the day just won't be one without your Hollywood fix. Let Golden State Media Concepts Entertainment Podcast take care of that. Jordan and Keith is Entertainment Tonight meets Access Hollywood.
I'm Jordan. The guy laughing, that's Keith.
Yeah, I'm Keith. An all-inclusive look of pop culture.
So, coronavirus, those of you who, don't follow the news, you better start, because there's a new virus epidemic that is taking over the world, and China's kind of struggling to control it. This new illness is called coronavirus, and it's kind of like a severe upper respiratory infection, kind of like SARS, which China now has more cases than it had of SARS. Severe respiratory something syndrome. I don't know what the A stands for, but China's struggling to control this. Chinese officials have confirmed over 7,700 cases of the mysterious illness as foreign governments airlifted their citizens out of Wuhan, the outbreak's epicenter. So as of now, the death toll is 170 in China, and the number of infections has jumped by 30%. As of today, there are 6,000 infections currently active worldwide, and 170 people have died. So, and this has spread to France, and I think now Canada. So it's getting close. I'm in Dallas, and that's scary. When Tyler came down with the flu, I said, get your butt to the doctor, because if you have coronavirus, what are we going to do? So, it wasn't. It was the flu for now. Who knows how long it's going to take to, spread here. There's already somebody that went to Baylor University in Waco that reportedly has it. But symptoms are like, respiratory, like cough, sore throat, trouble breathing. It's very vague, but scary. And my first thought was, I felt really helpless. Like, how am I going to protect myself from this? But then I read that the death percentage, like your percentage of dying, is like 4%. So it's not huge. But that's still scary. If China can't control it, is it that bad? Or does it just get people that are already susceptible? Apparently this has gotten so bad in China that they're trying to build a new hospital in like 10 days. They have that many cases, and they're struggling so hard to control it. I talked to the nurse lady that tested me for strep today. Or not strep, flu. She was super nice. I went because I was super surprised that I hadn't gotten the flu yet. Usually I'm getting sick and everybody around me sick, and it actually wasn't me this time. And so I had her test me just to see if it was, dormant in my body and symptoms were going to show up, and I was negative for all strands of the flu. And I asked her, how do you stay so healthy all the time? Because she was a doctor, and she said, I wear masks. That's what I do. Because she was taking my card and taking, money, and I was touching things, I was signing things, and I just thought, I've been so aware of the germs around me lately, and it's like, how do doctors stay so healthy all the time? She said when she first started, it was really hard for her to stay healthy Apparently, cases have been reported now in Germany, Tibet, Thailand, Hong Kong. And in Germany, the cases that have been reported were people who had not flown in from China, so that's great. It is airborne now. Not great. Not great. That was sarcasm. That's not great. DEFCON 5 right now. I'm freaking out. A 7.7 earthquake in the Caribbean leads to evacuations in Miami and a tsunami threat. So, no immediate reports of damage or injuries, but there is a tsunami threat that has been issued. What the heck is going on? So, Australia went up in flames. We lost Kobe Bryant, and now the Caribbean is going to fall apart and sink into the ocean. The earthquake northwest of Jamaica, it struck the south of Cuba, northwest of Jamaica on Tuesday. And it was so strong that it was felt in Miami. 7.7. Could you imagine a 10? The Miami Police Department said in a tweet that there were no reports of injuries, but that the Brickell area, which had seen some buildings evacuated, was secure, and there were no mandatory evacuations. Traffic and public transportation are resuming as normal. However, the Pacific Tsunami Warning Center has issued a tsunami threat for Belize, Cuba, Honduras, Mexico, and the Cayman Islands, with waves up to 3 feet. South America, y'all. South America gets the crap end of the stick all of the time. Reports say that the quake has not affected any of the sanctioned Super Bowl events at the Hard Rock Stadium or other venues around Miami, so everything is scheduled to carry on as usual. How is that possible? 7.7 magnitude earthquake in one of the world's biggest cities, but everything's good. The world is crazy, y'all. And this earthquake was like the strongest recorded by Cuba and ever. But there was no huge damage, which I don't understand. The world just does. It further kind of exacerbates the point of you literally never know what is going to happen when you wake up tomorrow. The world does not keep score of sinners and saints. The world does not discriminate on who you are or where you live. Be safe, people. We're going to take a quick break. I'm going to go check out how to start building my underground bunker, and when we come back, I'm going to tell you how to stay sane on social media whenever everything around you seems so dark. Stay right here with us on the GSMC Social Media News Podcast.
The GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
When I'm sitting in my bed and scrolling through social media, I just get tired. Like, sometimes I am so hijacked by social media that I'm not doing anything all day, but I feel tired. And I think that's a world thing, because they're coming up all across the country with like actual iPhone social media rehab centers, which is crazy. That's how you know that we really have a problem. Like, we're becoming that kind of social exaggeration of people who are glued to their phones all the time, and I don't want to be like that. I don't know about you guys, but I don't want to miss the world. And I don't want to be so overweight and drive around in my hologram car all day and just stare at my screen and become a useless bot. That's what I feel like whenever I do it. I feel like a bot. Like I'm just a robot following what everyone else is doing. Wake up, sheeple. So, a couple of months ago when I was going through a relatively dark time, I unplugged myself from social media. And it really helped me to kind of take control back of what I fed my mind and what I fed my body. And so I'm going to give you 3 cardinal rules to live by and how to stay mentally healthy when social media is dark. So, number 1, limit time and exposure to social media. Your iPhone has an amazing screen time feature that I didn't know adults could use. I always saw the screen time white screen popping up on the kids I babysat for in the past, on their iPads and stuff, or on the iPads at the daycare. I used to work for a daycare. Fun times. But I didn't understand. You don't have to be a parent to use this. You can use this on yourself. So set your screen time. If it goes past, an hour on certain apps a day, shut it off. You can monitor yourself. You can keep yourself accountable. I try and also spend more time active than scrolling. So for every, 30 minutes, well, that's not a lot. I try and spend like a couple of hours for every 30 minutes that I'm scrolling. And also, like, give myself allotted scroll time and avoid doing it the first thing in the morning or before bed, because if you do it the first thing in the morning, that sets the tone for your whole day. So changing out, that scroll time and making it kind of like journal time where you can reflect or walk outside and be with your pet, or, listen to the birds, or get some deep breaths, maybe do yoga, or spend time with your significant other. Get lost in thought, do some prayers. So much better than just the world bombarding you with its opinions and what it deems to be, necessary. Number 2, deep clean your feed. You don't have to totally chuck social media out in order to be healthy on it. I do find that the more I am on social media, the more I am subscribing to other people's truths. So that means for me, some people find it, necessary to get professional pictures taken once a week and stockpile them and hoard them and kind of pass it off as, oh, I just woke up and I'm looking at my oatmeal and laughing, with my family, and this is totally not planned at all, which it totally is. And if that's your truth, like, live it. But it's not mine. Life isn't like that for me, and I've never wanted, a fake life that I couldn't sustain. So realizing that that's not a thing was huge for me. Realizing how much work it took to be a professional Instagrammer was a game changer, because I don't want to waste my life trying to look good in photos. I want to waste my life actually having fun in the photos I take. So if you find yourself rolling your eyes at the people you follow, unfollow them. Unfollow negativity and fake news, or people that are toxic to you, who you feel like you have to perform for. You don't owe anything to these people. And comparison is a thief of joy. Comparison is the thief of joy. So during my social media purge, I unfollowed, people that I haven't seen in years that maybe I was trying to post to show them, oh, I'm having a great life. I unfollowed them. I made my account private because, your life, you have one life, and people are not owed a front row ticket to your growth. They are not owed a front row seat or general admission to the pit of your life. You deserve some privacy. You deserve to heal and learn and grow at your own pace without, inquiring minds judging you. And half of the time, we're performing for these people who aren't paying a lick of attention to us. That's what Instagram is. It's kind of like a big performance. Kind of messed up if you think about it. So instead of following, 200 people that you went to high school with, unfollow those people you don't talk to and follow, self-care accounts or, motivational quote accounts or, kindness is still everywhere accounts. I don't know. Just like things that make you laugh. I actually downloaded TikTok for this reason because I was a huge Vine lover, and I remember just, it makes me laugh, and the videos, the comments, it might be silly to some people, but it is a stress reliever. It's that crackhead humor, I love that stuff, and just watching silly things, knowing, oh, that person gets it. That's my sense of humor, stuff that is totally weird out of context. It brings me joy. So ditch the things that are bringing you down and embrace some silly stuff if it makes you happy. Self-care apps and meditation apps. Not Talkspace. I recommend go see an actual therapist. Not trying to, bash Talkspace, but go pay an actual therapist to help you. Headspace, that's what I was trying to get at. I use Headspace. My mind is always really noisy. I fall asleep to podcasts, and so I use Headspace for meditation and, calming that mental chatter. And number 3, take a break. Take breaks when you need to and unplug. Nobody can run a marathon forever. You have to take a break. You need a water break. Everyone needs a vacation. Everyone needs a detox. Whether that's a week, a month, a year, whoever you are, everyone needs a break to feel, that they don't have to look at everyone else's perfect life forever, every single day. And you don't have to constantly perform. You don't owe anybody a picture of your life, and whenever you're released of that, you're able to really look at your life and see how great it actually is, whenever you're not comparing your life in all of its ups and downs to somebody's best of reel. So put the phones away at dinner. When with company or your significant other, nothing says, I don't care about you, more than scrolling through your phone when you're with your partner. And I'm not talking like when you have downtime. I'm talking like every second of the day. Like, put your phone away and look at who is right in front of you. Or like while you're doing another task or eating, like on your phone. That's my worst habit. So I try and put my phone away when I'm eating, but like I'm still really bad at eating and watching TV. I can't focus on just eating. That's something that I need to stop doing. But multitasking with a phone in your hand is not the move. And get that thing out of your hand. Like, do you want flu? Because I know a lot of people, if there was a survey out there, a lot of people take that thing to the bathroom. And all of those germs that you carry with you to and from the bathroom are there with you if you hold that phone in your hand when you're eating, or it's right by your head at night where you're sleeping, like, or cooking. Like, just think about it, think about it. But that's all I have for how to stay mentally healthy when social media is dark. And that's all I have for this cast, guys. I love talking to you guys every week. And for our listeners and our returning listeners, thank you for coming back. If you like what we put out, leave us a comment, or send us a DM on Twitter. Follow our social media accounts, and send us, your favorite stories from the week. Also, check out our GSMC TV podcast. I also do that. So I'll update you, on the TV. My episode's going to be about the Grammys, my next episode. And just stay in contact with us. We love our followers. We love hearing what you guys have to say. And as always, stay safe and stay kind. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.